better not have no plans tonight.
Movie time and it's feeling right.
You're looking for a love that lasts. You'll find it at Romancing the Podcast. Ooh, ooh, baby, you had me at hello. Ooh, I love you.
I know.
Ooh, ooh, baby, you're the wind beneath my wings. Ooh, ah, I'll have what she's having.
Recording locally. We already missed out on the best Shakira impressions this side of the Western Hemisphere.
It was the most unenthusiastic Shakira song lyric recital I'd ever heard. It wasn't even like you guys were singing. It was like you were finishing each other's sandwiches.
Sandwiches.
Let me just start. We just got to start.
Let's do it.
Thank you for tuning into Romancing the Pod. You had us at hello. I'm Paige Wesley.
And I'm Todd Schlosser, and this week we're joined by my lovely wife, Natalie.
Hello.
Hey, Natalie.
Hello.
How you doing?
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Now we have to keep the Shakira crap, or they're not going to get that joke. Ah, damn you, Paige.
Worth it.
Always trying to force in your Shakira agenda, babe. And I say that to my Natalie. This is a movie that we love. Oh, by the way, we should say, we watched Serendipity.
You made me watch Serendipity, yes.
I did make you watch it. And man, I am so glad to report that this movie from 2001 holds up. There's nothing wrong with it. And that, man.
You sound so
Woo,
sincere.
they nailed it. They just future-proofed it so hardcore. It was great.
I love the part where they're like, the internet's never going to be anything.
It's CD radio for nerds, or whatever people were saying at the time. Something like that. So, Paige, Natalie and I love this movie. I know this is the first time you saw it. I don't know if you just watched it or you watched it yesterday or whatever, but...
No, I literally finished 20 minutes ago.
So did we. Yay. Okay, awesome. This is the best way to talk about this movie when recollections are fresh.
Very fresh.
And the energy is high. Babe, when did you first see Serendipity? Because it predates me.
It way predates you. Probably not long after it came
I
out.
can't believe you predated me at all.
This is like early 2000s, right?
It was 2001, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, so like high school. Okay.
Yeah, probably around that time when I steal? Probably around that time where I still idealized fate and
Yes, that is my biggest problem.
yeah. But it's fun though. Like, I don't know. It doesn't have to be realistic or
Sure.
I choose to believe that this movie, in this world that the movie takes place in, fate is a thing. It exists.
it clearly
and
is
it ties
in the movie.
people together in some cosmic web that can make you travel coast to coast way too fast, but whatever.
yeah, infidelity be damned.
Yeah, that's the second part of it that I'm like, okay.
So they never really like cheat, but like their first meet cute is a bit like, it's a bit much.
Yeah.
I know I said a moment ago that this movie holds up and there's nothing wrong with it, but clearly I was right, because like there is nothing, like this is amazing. It's a great movie. But no, I do think she crosses the line a bit. She kisses him on the cheek, right? And they sort of like, they have like a whole date. They do a whole date.
Yeah, he says getting a crush on another guy's girlfriend. Like,
I'm less worried about the opening date and way more worried about him abandoning his fiance the week of his wedding to chase down another woman. That's the way more infidelity in my mind. If I found out that that's what my fiance was doing, there'd be no wedding.
well, there wasn't.
I mean, Paige, we only hear that he called it off. She may have called it off and he's just trying to save face. We don't know.
I hope she did.
She'd be well within her rights to do that. I mean, this movie is essentially watching two people who are just like too afraid to make the ultimate commitment.
Yeah,
just trying to
sure.
find a way to sabotage their current longtime relationship
Yes.
to jump ship to a new one that probably won't be much, if at all, better than what they're in.
No, these people do not have good relationship skills. No.
Yeah. And if Jeremy Piven was a good friend, he'd be like, bro, maybe don't get married, but this is an overreaction to not wanting to get married, but not being able to talk about it.
They wait until they're in her yard.
Yes.
We're laying here because you don't want to be standing somewhere else. It's a beautiful line. I love it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to fly across the country to have that realization.
Right.
Yeah, like if you're having these thoughts about somebody else anyway, if you're idealizing somebody that you met 3 years ago and saw for 4 hours,
Yeah.
you probably shouldn't get married. Like,
Yeah.
like, if you're like, you wouldn't be thinking about somebody else if you were with, the right person.
In defense of this relationship, I will say, and by this relationship, I mean, Kate Beckinsale and John Cusack, obviously.
Sure.
They don't even kiss on the lips. Like she kisses him on the cheek, whatever, in the first little bit. They spend too much time together, obviously, and they're like really sort of just on a date. But that's not great. I do like that the movie keeps them apart. And that's why I think Fate does this. Like, Fate separates them before they could continue the night too far, and then it keeps them apart until they both have the realization that they cannot be with that person that they're with, and they both end that relationship, and then Fate provides a way for them to find each other again. And that's why I think Fate is the unseen hand of our Lord and Savior, Josh Hartnett. I mean, we all were getting there. Like, I do think that it's gotta be.
I was going to say Richard Curtis. Like, I don't know.
All of that to say, I do think Fate exists in this movie, and believing that it does, and Fate had that intelligent design to their relationship makes me okay with the movie, but it is problematic. You're not wrong.
Well, and it's like, okay, so the way I look at it is these 3 years that they were apart, they had to learn things about themselves. They had to be in a relationship that, was going to end up falling apart later so they could know what a bad relationship is. And, Fate just had to wait until it was the right time.
Fate had to wait, baby.
Fate had to wait.
Fate had to wait. I think I'd feel more of that if we saw any of that, because we do just skip, right? So, if they had parted and then we got some insight into their relationship, then maybe, yes, I would buy that. There are huge screenwriting problems with this movie that drove me nuts, and that is one of them.
Disagree. It's a perfect film.
It's not. It is paced like a crazy. It is nuts.
It is. It also feels long, and some parts are really short.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yes.
But that's probably the structure of the acts more than anything else. But
yes, it's because there is no structure. That's a huge problem.
Yeah.
A lot of movies at this time, and I want to say that even though it's a little bit before this, but before Sunrise, has sort of a similar flow. And it's just we're here to tell this specific story. Joseph Campbell be damned. Which is sort of why I think the pacing feels weird. And it does.
It does. I mean, the one thing I will give to Before Sunrise is that it's just that one night.
Yeah.
And then it's later movies, we get back to them, right? But if you view just that one movie, it exists in that closed system. This was the first time I saw this movie.
Yeah.
I have no nostalgia attached to it, right? So
yeah.
I'm coming in fresh. There are parts about it that I like and find fun, but it exists in a weird space for me where it's not goofy enough to play with the magical realism of Fate, because I do think within the movie, Fate exists.
Yeah.
It's got to.
But they relegate all goofiness to side characters and only in small doses.
Yeah.
I get it, Paige. We did need a lot more Eugene Levy. I agree.
Yes.
I could have taken more Eugene Levy. Because right now he exists kind of like Rowan Atkinson in Love Actually.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
love that.
Me too.
Love that.
But if he had stayed with them after the credit card warehouse sidetrack,
Sure, and he just showed up at more stores. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
would have loved it. I work all over this town.
Right,
For
right.
whatever his excuses.
What, you think you can afford an apartment in New York on one salary? I needed more of that or none of it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
halfway. I did not feel enough chemistry between them to invest in the relationship of them getting back together.
Yeah.
Even in that mini date, I was like, eh.
Yeah.
I also, from a screenwriting perspective, because we don't see anything of what happened to them in those intervening years, we're kind of playing catch up with them. And that's fine. That is an appropriate way to do that movie. But it means from mid-act 2 all the way through the end of the movie, it is constantly setting up dominoes, knocking them down, setting them up, knocking them down. And it gets very, very frustrating. And that's why this movie feels long. This movie is 92 minutes long. It feels 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
Oh my God. If you would ask me right now, I would have said it's easily 2 hours, 2 minutes. It's got to be.
No, this movie is 92 minutes long. But it's because they keep setting up a like, they're about to cross. Nope. Oh, they're about to cross paths again. Nope. Oh my God, they're gonna. Nope. And after a while, you just stop caring because you're like, this isn't gonna be the one. There's 10 more minutes in this movie.
They're gonna pull the rug 4 or 5 more times before it happens for real.
4 or 5 more times. It also commits one of my cardinal romance movie sins. And that is, if you are going to set up a romance with people who are already in relationships, the people they are in relationships with have to be bad.
Yeah.
They have to be, which they kind of accomplish with John Corbett and Lars.
Yeah.
I wanted so much more Lars in this movie.
Yes.
I have so many questions about Lars. Lars is hilarious.
I want to know why Lars is getting canceled in Sweden at the end of this movie.
I
And
need to
Dusseldorf.
know everything.
He sold out those Sweden shows in 18 hours, and then he is
In
having
8
a
hours.
crisis. Sorry, in 8 hours. That's worse.
8 hours.
And then he is like having a crisis because they're all getting canceled because he got canceled in Scandinavia.
Somehow.
He got canceled in Stockholm, but then also in Dusseldorf, Germany.
Also in Dusseldorf, Germany.
Okay, so something happened in that like middle Europe where like
Something happened.
it was very Julian Assange in nature, I bet. That's all I'm saying.
I bet it was the re-edit of that video.
He got canceled before canceling was a thing.
Yes. But then on the flip side, there's nothing wrong with Hallie.
Yeah.
No, she's awesome.
In fact, she's played by a supermodel.
Yeah.
She seems incredibly sweet and understanding. The only thing she does is kind of like, hey, I need you here with me.
Yeah.
We're getting married.
Yeah.
And he's like, nah. Like, it makes John Cusack a shitty person
Yeah.
through
Yeah.
almost all of this movie.
Yeah.
To the point where I'm not rooting for him at all.
Yeah.
Kate Beckinsale, on the flip side, is kind of in it until the very, like, she doesn't get her air quotes call to action, if you want to think about it, to try and find him until the end of Act 2.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
she's just kind
It's
of going
late.
on her merry way and is not going to call her wedding off. And she has more reason to do so.
Yeah.
No, she's just ruining her best friend's birthday.
You know what? She still got to go to Serendipity. It's fine.
This is a movie that follows the 2 most toxic people you know and treats
Yes.
them like heroes. And at the end of the movie, I'm like, I want those 2 people to just destroy the fuck out of each other's lives. Because that is clearly what's going to happen. They're both the kind of selfish where they would invite their best friend on a trip where they are forced to stay with them in New York.
And become an accomplice in their adultery.
it's crazy. It's an insane premise. And then, you know,
It's a crazy premise.
and that's just one of the 2 of the people. And I think John Cusack is worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, John Cusack is way worse. To the point where at the end, I was like, okay, so they both torched their lives.
Yep.
They're going all in on a person they spent 4 hours with.
Yeah.
Everyone has a somebody they spent 4 hours with. Like,
Yeah.
most people ain't married to that person because
No.
4 hours is different than the rest of your life.
When I was 29, I was flying across the country with the bands doing something, and I talked to a lady for like 4 hours,
Who is she? I'll kill her.
and it was great. I'll tell you right now, I never think about her. Like, I don't even know what her name was. Like, it doesn't matter.
I occasionally think about this person that I spent time with of just like, wonder where they're at now.
Yeah.
Not that I should be with them,
Man.
but just like, what did their life turn out like?
Yeah.
More just curiosity.
I barely think about that about the person I was married to before Natalie.
Yeah.
I just like want her to have a great life without me,
Precisely.
which is what she wanted.
And you don't need to be part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't want to spend my mental bandwidth thinking about it.
On top of this madness of like toxic relationships, there's this blanket of the movie at one point even tries to talk about why the belief in soulmates is bad. And then it's like, just kidding. The rest of this movie's going to happen.
Yeah.
It relies so heavily on soulmates, which is a concept I divested from my belief system a while ago. And it was like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
The amount of abuse that happens because people say to themselves, but they're my
Yes.
soulmate,
But they're my
Yes.
soulmate.
is reason enough to not believe that.
That's one of many reasons. I think the belief in soulmates is toxic for both you and your partner. On the
Yeah.
one hand, I think there's a layer of soulmates that is tied to people believing that they're not worthy of love, where they're like, well, that person will love me. And it's like, well, lots of people will love you in different capacities over the course of your life.
Yeah.
Like, you are worthy of being loved. It doesn't have to be just this one special person. And also when you're like, hey, that person's my soulmate. Well, that person is a person with thoughts and feelings, and like they have their own choices.
And agency. Yeah.
And
their choices,
agency.
Yeah.
And it sets up this like idealism that
Yes.
this person is your soulmate. And so you're perfect for each other. So you'll never
Right.
have fights. You'll never have, they'll never be annoying to you. You're perfect for each other. And of course, that's why in my little, 17-year-old self, the first time I watched this, I was like, oh, that's what I want.
Of course, the person for me.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. As opposed to, I would say for me as an adult, a much more romantic view of long-term relationships is that you have to choose that person every day.
Yes.
Like you have to choose and work to be with them.
And work to become the best person you can be.
Yes.
For them.
Yes. And I also... like this movie also paints a really unhealthy picture of having any thoughts of anybody outside of your, like you're a human, you're going to find people attractive, your thoughts are going to wander. The difference is what you do about that, right? Like you will not never ever think of another person for the entire rest of your life. That's ridiculous. But like, don't get on a plane across the country. Just be like, interesting thought. And now I'm going to continue to be faithful to the person I'm with.
Right.
Like,
well, and it's like not entertaining those thoughts, because that's the problem.
Right.
With people who met each other and spent 4 hours together and 3 years later are still thinking about each other because you've entertained this thing in your mind for 3 years and idealized it.
Right.
Yeah. They're both the level of toxic that they're the kind of people that after a 4-hour conversation have built a whole relationship in their head around that.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And they're never going to live up to each other's standards of each other. It's going to be awesome. I cannot wait for the sequel.
I can't wait for the sequel. It's the same kind of thing of like having a crush on a famous person or a celebrity or even just a person you don't know. You don't know that person, right? Like you can't know someone after 4 hours. You can't. And so you will start to fill things in with your brain of what you hope that person is.
Yeah. Because you can have chemistry with somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
And that's about it.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's also the dialogue in this movie.
Shakespearean in qualities. I get
God,
it. It's
no.
so good. It's amazing. Like,
No.
He just says so many great, like, wait, he says, maybe we're lying here because you don't want to be standing somewhere else.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
Like that screenwriter like stood up and high-fived his roommate.
Yeah, his roommate.
That actually is a great line, and there are a few great lines. A lot of them come in the obituary that I can only describe as Jeremy Piven ASMR whispering it to me at the end of the movie.
That was my least favorite dialogue in the entire film. It's awful.
I know, it's written like a pretentious New York Times writer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Even a New York Times writer wouldn't be that fucking pretentious to be like,
No.
in a post-Jungian, I'm like, go fuck yourself.
No, but Paige, that is exactly what you would get from someone who works at the New York Times, desperately wants to be a New York Times writer, and is only more or less writing down the words and names of people who have died.
Who have died.
That dude's not a New York Times writer.
No.
I personally think the best line was, let's hope he's a bald fascist who picks his nose and wipes it into the car seat.
I did love that one. That was another good one.
There's another one of Natalie's favorite lines that I'll have her point out when we get to it. But
Okay.
yeah.
There's a huge sections of this movie where it's almost like they're winking at the camera like, look, we know that the premise is kind of dumb, but trust us, this movie's smart. And you're just like, no, it's not. You're pretentious. But it's mostly John Cusack. And I was like, this is his toxic character from High Fidelity.
Yes.
Who is toxic, no matter how much I love that movie.
Yeah.
Toxic.
Yes.
It's that guy being like, look, I'm the smart one here. I know where Cassiopeia is. I'm just like, go fuck yourself. Should have stayed with Lars.
Oh, you think Lars doesn't know where Cassiopeia is? He builds his tour schedule around astrology.
Wrote a song about it.
Absolutely. Here's what would have been a braver version of this movie that I don't think anybody has the nuts to do.
Just make it actual Lars Ulrich, the drummer from Metallica.
Oh my God, I would live. But no, to have them go through this whole movie and then meet and there's no chemistry because they don't know each other.
Oh, shit.
And they realize that the people they have been with are actually good for them and they should stay with them.
Oh shit, I'm the toxic one.
What?
That's what they think.
Oh yeah, realizing they're the toxic one.
Like, because they meet each other and they're like, oh no, the last relationship was great and I blew it up because I'm afraid of commitment.
Yeah.
This is terrible. I need to go to therapy.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
they just have nothing to talk about.
She's a therapist, y'all.
Yeah, she's a therapist.
Oh, imagine that. A therapist who struggles with their own mental health.
Look, all of them do. All of them do, because mental health is difficult for everybody. And sometimes it's even more difficult when you're responsible for other people's.
Yeah.
But yeah, because that I would have like, all right, okay, movie where like the love story truly is the people they were with, and they like in this search for this idealized thing, they realize who they should have been with the whole time, and it's not the person from the like. If you could pull that movie off, fine. But this one needs more Lars, is all I'm saying.
Well, I feel like there's probably a way to do the whole fate thing, which is what I loved so much when I was younger.
Right.
There's a way to do it better.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah, because there are fun things that they set up. Like, I did love that the book comes back and the $5 bill comes back.
yeah.
But by the time it does, it's the 15th thing
Yeah.
to come back. And I feel like if you pulled some of those things out or made them a little more vague, because like within the movie, every time they're like, is this a sign? It's a sign.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
As opposed to, is this really a sign, or am I avoiding something about me?
Yeah.
No one ever asks that question until the very, very end.
Yeah, Jeremy Piven does, but not until they're literally in her bushes.
Right.
I haven't made it like that, you pervs. But yeah, like that actually isn't what happens.
You're on
But
this podcast with us.
I'm surrounded.
La, 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 la. Shakira had nothing to do with this. Natalie and I are just in the same mood and we're just vibing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was all of my notes about watching this for the first time with no nostalgia.
Yeah.
It is a cute Christmas movie, and it is a Christmas movie because they're like shopping right before Christmas.
It's Christmas adjacent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like their meet cute happens over Christmas time. It doesn't really say exactly
Right.
what it is, but I assume between Thanksgiving and Christmas at some point.
They say it is 5 days before Christmas, so
Oh.
it's the 20th.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Just 3 days before recording this episode.
Mhm.
But yeah, like the whole movie, like it takes place that night, and then 3 years later, but not really.
Over like 3 days. Yeah.
Yeah, and it is winter-ish time, but it's not like Christmas.
Well, it's moving into winter.
Yeah.
Because it's still the roller skating rink where the ice skating rink was.
Yeah, and it seems like it is like uncommonly snowing.
Yeah.
Like it's an early snow or whatever. It's what it felt like.
Well, he says it's spring.
Oh.
So it's a late snow.
Oh, okay. So either way, but so it's just over
Yeah.
3 years since they last met.
Right.
So maybe coming out of winter. Okay.
Well, and it doesn't even say 3, it just says a few. We assume it's 3 to 4 because that's.
Oh, I thought it said 3.
Yeah, it says a few
Yeah, it's a few
years.
years later,
It says a
yeah.
few years ago and a few
Oh.
years later.
Yeah.
Which definitely means more than 2. So it's 3
Yeah.
plus.
Yeah.
No matter what. Yeah.
Which is fine. Like I don't care. Whatever.
Well, and at one point they say 7 years, and I'm like, 7?
Well, they say 7 years. That's why 7 was stuck in my head. But that's when that was like an apartment.
That's when they're looking for her apartment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that may be when she moved in, and that's not necessarily when
Right.
when they met. You know.
Yeah. The movie's not 100% clear.
Yeah, which I'm fine with. It doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I was fine with a few years ago, a few years later. To me, for it to be like the exact day would have been Hallmark level of of engineering around fate.
I do love that at the end of the movie when he's laying on the roller blading rink, I guess.
Yeah, ruining it for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, he is the best, like, dressed, unhoused individual laying down in the roller rink. Like, what are you doing, sir? Please leave.
Right.
I'm reminiscing about a lady I met 3 or 4 years ago for 4 hours. Like, what? Get out.
Yeah.
But when she, like, I'm going to describe it as a gutter chuck because she throws it 30 yards. Like, there's no way that would have gone where it went.
There's no way she could have made that throw. That's in my note. Especially because it's a glove. It doesn't have any weight to it.
The snowy wind took it.
Yeah, it was fate, Paige. Fate carried it the rest of the way.
Yeah.
She put
Yeah,
herself
yeah.
out there and fake. Oh my God, I found the metaphor. I hate it. I hate it. I hate that I got there. I found it. Okay, I got there.
When there was one set of fingerprints, that's when fate carried the glove.
That's when fate carried my glove across the beach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
Should we just talk about the movie?
Yeah, maybe we should just go through this movie scene by scene.
Yes, we open on credits and we get through those credits that tell us almost nothing to two people looking at the same pair of gloves at Bloomingdale's at Christmas during a very crowded shopping day.
Paige, we can't just skip over the minute and a half where these black gloves are treated with more reverence than the O.J. Simpson trial. Like, we are watching these gloves from like unpackaging from production into like putting them onto the sales floor. And then it's like this, and honestly, it's like a great like crane shot in on the building into the window. And then it's such a great shot, but it's so long.
It made my retail heart scream because how fucking dare you go back onto the sales floor with only one pair of fucking gloves. Bring a whole box.
In Bloomingdale's at Christmas.
In Bloomingdale's at Christmas. There'd be a whole team of people.
So Janice, what do you do at Bloomingdale's? Oh, I'm on black gloves.
I'm on glove duty.
Yeah.
I carry one pair of gloves in one tiny, tiny office basket.
And my house hunter's budget is $800 million.
I've got to live next to the beach, but also close to the downtown. And also, I don't want any blue walls. I know paint exists, but that's going to influence my choice. Anyway, I assumed it was a private shopper. And then I saw her just restock one pair of gloves. And I was like, fired. Like, no.
Private shopper makes sense because you would be getting it for one customer or whatever, right?
Right.
And they're like in a try-on room or whatever. They're like off.
Sure, yeah.
But taking it to the general pop sales floor is nuts. Yeah.
Right.
But if you're not paying attention because, you know, it's a movie, you're like, oh, this is cute, I guess. And Johnny Cochran's like, they stole my fucking idea. I can't believe it. If the glove does not fit, fate must be it. I just made that up. I did not write that. I'm so proud of myself. I'm so sorry.
Okay, but here's literally the very next scene. Something even crazier than restocking one pair of gloves at a time. She is buying the gloves for her boyfriend. He is buying the gloves for his girlfriend. There is no way the same pair of gloves would fit those people.
I thought she was buying them for herself.
I think she admits that later, but in the moment, and when it's never revealed if that's the case, based on what we find out later in the movie, I think she has already broken up with her boyfriend at this point.
Yeah.
And yes, I do think they were probably for her.
I think the boyfriend thing was like
to like throw him off.
Yeah, throw that guy off who was trying to buy them.
Right. But that was my first thought as I was like, those two people would need different gloves. They would not fit.
The way they like explain that away is very funny to me.
Well, it is, and I do appreciate that they do not misgender the person that they have invented in their yes and.
Yes.
That is actually shockingly like nice.
Yeah.
This is 2001. I wrote it down. I was
I
like,
know.
oh my God. Because he does misgender that person, this made up person for.
And she
then,
corrects him.
Yes. And then she corrects him.
Yes.
And he like acquiesces to that. He's like, oh, yes, her. Sorry.
Of course. Yes.
So not only does this movie from 2001 do this correctly, it also shows a white man take feedback.
Admitting he was wrong.
And admit he's wrong and then like acquiesce to it.
Yeah.
2001, guys.
It was wild because when they started their imaginary scenario, I was like, oh no, that's
I
right,
know.
2001. And then as it went on, I was like, oh, all right. Okay. But then they go to Serendipity 3. Now, I don't know how familiar y'all are with Serendipity 3, but most people are because it's one of the most famous restaurants in New York.
Yes.
And she's like, I don't know. One day I just wandered in here because of the name. I was like, I'm sorry, what?
And waited 2 hours for a table.
Yes! I was like, past the line of tourists? What are you talking about?
That is exactly what a pretentious person would say about going to Serendipity the first time. You know, it's exactly what she would say in this situation.
Oh, the second she's like, I don't know, it seemed cute and I wandered it because of the name. I was like, I'm going to carve my eyeballs out with a spoon. Like, what? What are you talking about?
Well, the first time I saw this, I had never.
Of course, at 17, you didn't know.
Yeah, like I didn't know. I'd never been to New York. And then when I was living in New York, I was like, oh, I have to go to Serendipity. And I went, and it was literally people lined up outside the door. There was a 3-hour wait.
3-hour wait. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. My brain immediately goes to Gilligan's Island ginger. Sorry, Natalie.
Hey, that's all right. That's all right. You've got your ginger, baby.
I do,
Yes.
finally, yeah. And this time, she's a real one.
I knew about it definitely from 30 Rock because there's a whole episode where Jack Donaghy's trying to take Salma Hayek to Serendipity for the frozen chocolate, hot chocolate that has gold in it.
Yeah.
And then when I worked at Sur La Table, we actually sold the mix.
Yeah.
Like for the Serendipity 3 hot chocolate. And it's Serendipity 3 because there have been 3 of them. This is the 3rd iteration of it.
Damn.
And they're like, because the previous 2 have closed.
They're even making sequels on this restaurant.
Making sequels. And the other 2 I don't think are still open. Serendipity 3 I think is the only one open. But yeah, it's like 3-hour wait and they go multiple times in this movie.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
They're going to make space for a movie that's going to make their restaurant even more famous than it is. Also, you mentioned 30 Rock, so I have to bring up.
Yeah.
Liz Lemon's dad is in this movie. In fact, he's the guy who
Yes.
they haggle over the gloves with. Not haggle, but they're like,
Yes.
he's trying to buy them, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And just as charming in both places. No, I don't have a problem with them. Of course they're going to film in Serendipity. They're in New
Right.
York. The name of the movie is Serendipity. Like, of course they're going to film there. I just think it's hilarious that, like, the movie tries to paint it as this, like, tiny, unknown dessert cafe that she discovered. And I'm like, this was the height of Serendipity's
Yes.
popularity. Like, it had been famous for years. And, like, I would almost argue that the movie is named after the restaurant. Like, that's how famous the restaurant was.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is a movie for grown-ups. Most grown-ups know about it. Like, a teenager wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
But like, I as a grown-up, without having ever attempted to go, have been to New York, I know about it.
Yeah.
It's been on TV many times.
Well, and there were like all these empty tables, and I was like, oh,
Yes!
bitch, no way. Like, absolutely not.
That's because they're filming this at like 3 a.m. or whatever. Oh God, but anyway, so they're like talking about the gloves, and at this point, technically lines have not been crossed, but I do want you to consider how this would look to their partners if
Yes.
they have them. Again,
Yes.
I don't know that she has them.
It's a full-on date, and he fully has a partner, we know.
Yeah, we know.
Well, and she says she has a boyfriend because he asked.
Right.
She does say that, yeah.
But in this scene is the scene where he says getting a crush on another guy's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's just like, isn't that kind of fun? I'm
Yeah,
like, no.
That's a little too far. Like, that's like, okay,
Yes.
listen.
Yeah, he's at that point, he's admitted interest. He's on a date with somebody else. If his girlfriend walked in on it, she'd be fucking pissed.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if there's like a physical boundary that been crossed. Like, boundaries been crossed at
Yeah.
this point.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah, for sure. See, I mean, even at this point, and we haven't like left and gone back in and they like have that moment where they're like, oh my God, fate wants us to be together. Let's hang out more.
Right.
Like, even before that, this is too much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But she won't give him her name. He keeps trying to give her his name. He's hitting on her the entire time.
Yeah.
Which, because he has said he has a girlfriend and he keeps emphasizing the like other guy's girlfriend or whatever, it grossed me out the whole time. I was like, stop it. No.
Yeah.
But he's like, well, okay, we're going to part ways. She's not going to give him the info. She leaves. He goes to the subway and is like, oh my God, my scarf. Goes back to the restaurant, and they've also left the gloves, so they run back into each other at the restaurant.
Yeah, because she's going to get those.
Which is the first time out of at least twice in this movie that someone leaves a clothing item unattended in New York City and comes back and it's
And
there.
it's there.
Which, and they're like story points.
But Paige, there's like nobody at Serendipity. So
There's
like-
nobody there. They still haven't cleared the table because they don't need to.
Guys, in this world, fate exists and it's a way better restaurant. So that's where everybody is.
Oh, at Fate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on down to Fate,
New York's hottest restaurant is Fate.
where we give you what you're going to eat. You don't order.
You don't order.
And you eat it and shut up and go home.
There's a place in Los Angeles where you order based on your mood.
Of course there is.
Yeah, of course there is. It's definitely kind of owned by a cult. Don't talk about it. But no, I loved that anytime and he was like, my scarf, they go back and she goes back for her scarf to that like roller rink a day later, like a full 24 hours, and not a single unhoused person has been like, I'm cold, free jacket. Like, nobody. Madness. This exists in a mythical New York City.
How bad did that jacket smell?
Oh my
that
God.
They were like, I'm good. This is disgusting.
This is terrible. Kate Beckinsdale, it's got frozen hot chocolate all over it. I don't know.
And it's soured.
Oh, just old whipped cream that's curdled on it. Also, John Cusack's hair in these early scenes
So
is a
bad.
crime.
Yes.
It should be illegal. It's way too short up top, way too long, and they haven't feathered the layers in well in the back. Like, it's too thick in the back. Like,
I've never, ever once said, oh, no, too thick in the back. Thank you, baby.
it is if it starts to stick off your head like a rectangle.
I was talking about butts. Paige,
Oh, butts, yes.
I only diverted this sidetrack that you got us on to walk you down another. I will grant you the premise that John Cusack has bad hair in this. I believe it is an homage to Fate, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, tell me everything.
Fate, I believe in this movie, is an unseen godlike person figure who also starred in a movie around this time with exquisitely bad hair called The Faculty.
Oh.
Oh, no. Josh Hartnett.
Josh
okay.
Hartnett. It is a subtle nod to Josh Hartnett. Fight me, nerds. I will go to my grave believing that. Please don't try to debunk me because I know I'm wrong and I'm going to stick with it.
So bad.
I mean, it's bad in a different way, but still bad.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's a good kind of bad. It's like, oh, that's so bad.
That's so bad. I thought you were going to pull a Zach Orth from Fall Into You, which also came out this year.
You said Zach Orth like I should know who that is. And I do know who that is.
Yeah,
but
that's
most
fucking
people
right, you
will
do.
not know who that is. I'm
people
just a
won't.
nerd.
You're a nerd.
I don't know who that is.
Google Zach Orth. He's one of those, oh, it's that guys.
You've seen him. He's on Law and Order all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I know who that dude is.
Yeah, he's honestly at this time he was probably in Wet Hot American Summer. Zach Orth.
Yeah.
Because that was right around 2001, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, they run into each other, and despite his horrific hair, she's like, well, fate brought us back together because magically our clothing items were still where we left them. So I guess we're going to continue going on a date for the rest of the night. So they go ice skating, and he's laying it on thick.
Yeah.
Oh, he's laying it on like a guy who didn't just say he had a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay. You know how you have your mariachi paradox?
That's not my mariachi paradox. It is a universal truth that I recognize, sure.
Sure.
I don't claim ownership of it. It is just a law of the universe that exists, but please continue.
I'm about to present another one.
Hell yeah.
It's called the main character's favorite movie paradox. In any romance movie, when a male main character says what their favorite movie is, that is just the director's favorite movie.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Or director or writer's favorite movie. And it's just a dude thinking about like, yeah, a girl will think this is cool.
Right?
Yeah, really quick, raise a hands out there. How many of you guys think Cool Hand Luke is your favorite movie?
I see no hands raised on the video call.
It reminds me of being in school in New York because I went to an acting conservatory in New York.
Right.
And they would go around and like ask people what their favorite movies were. And everybody just tried to be more pretentious than the next person.
Yep.
And if it was like some random art house film, everybody's like, oh, I don't know what that is.
Oh,
I
wow.
wanna
Tell
look at
me
it. And I'm
about
like,
it.
Lord of the Rings? You know?
I like quantity over quality.
And everyone knows the better Cool Hand Luke was the band, not the movie. Come on.
Oh, the band. You know who Cool Hand Luke was?
I went to high school with their drummer. He was a friend
you
of mine.
Didn't.
Yeah.
I used to hang out with them all the time.
Yeah, Cool Hand Luke's cool as shit. Well, I mean, I only know one of them, but yeah.
That's so funny. Like, how have we never talked about this?
I don't know. It's weird that we haven't.
Yeah.
Because we spend a lot of time together, babe. We talk
I
a
know,
lot.
right?
Yeah.
I have a Cool Hand Luke shirt somewhere.
There you go. But yeah, no, it is absolutely, what is the pretentious movie that's going to make me seem cool? We saw it
Yes.
in True Romance too, but like this happens so often. I was like, it's almost always the director or the writer's favorite movie every time. I do love the cool poster she sees of it later though.
Yeah.
But Anyway, they're ice skating. They're having a good time. She falls. He tries to like help her with the scrape on her arm. This is when he notices she's got freckles in the shape of Cassiopeia, which like always beware a man who knows his astrology. And then like she goes to kiss him on the cheek. And I was like, okay, now we're crossing even more lines. But she's like going to give him the number and then it blows away. And she's like, no, fate. And I was like, come on. But then right after she's like, okay, give me like a $5 bill. She writes on it and then she goes and buys something at a newsstand and comes back and is like, if that $5 bill makes it back to me, then we're meant to be together, which means that she clearly does not understand how currency works in the United States.
I thought it was so funny. Like, if I gave a woman like my phone number and then she immediately threw it away without looking at it, I'd be like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, what is happening? Because that's essentially what she does. I did look it up, by the way.
Yeah.
If you want to know the odds of a bill you pay for something for returning to you, it's about 1 in 8 billion.
Wow.
But, and here's the thing, it's not zero though. And like at this time, all the way into like my early college years, people would like deface bills almost as advertising. So like you would get a $1 bill that said weird things on it, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
But what people don't know is that when bills get old enough, they get taken out of circulation and incinerated.
It's about every 6.5 years. I did a lot of research for that one stupid anecdote I just gave. So yeah, it's about every 6.5 years they get like recirculated. And then they burn them. It burns the money.
Yeah.
It's going to go out like Toy Story. Like, you got to write down the number somewhere that you're actually going to keep it, you idiot. I'd have been like, oh, if you believe this much in fate, you're not for me. Like, this is to an extreme.
To the point where, like, the odds of it being incinerated before it would circulate back to you are way better than the odds of it ever circulating back to you. So that's ridiculous. But then she's like, okay, I was reading this book. I'm going to write my name. I'm going to sell it to an old bookstore. If you find the book, then you have my number. Like, it's even, basically. I did the $1 or the $5, you do the book. Now, we will find out later that this is a first edition of Love in the Time of Cholera. It's not just any book. That would be worth a lot of money.
Yeah, apparently that's like a really popular book I had still never heard of.
I mean, well, here's the thing. You're not a book person. That's nothing wrong, but it also would not have been a very interesting one to audiobook for sure.
I was never a book boy. You're right.
Love in the Time of Cholera has been, I think, a play and a movie. It's definitely been a movie.
Yeah.
It's been on a bestseller list for years. It's been on AP tests. Like, it's a wildly famous book, and she has a first edition. Let me really quickly, let me see what that would cost.
While you're looking it up, can I just like briefly describe Love in a Time of Cholera to you, audience? It's more or less this. Oh, I think I'm dying. I love you. Oh, dead. Like, what is that book? That sounds like a terrible book. Do anything to make Natalie laugh.
Okay.
Did you find it? Did I vamp for enough time?
You did, and it is the exact it's the exact version that she has in the movie.
Of course it is.
Because despite being a very, very famous book, it is a modern book. It's not super old, but it is very famous. Now, if it's signed by the author, it's worth $2,378. If it is not signed by the author, it's worth about $400.
That's still a pretty expensive like
still
gift
pretty
to get
expensive.
from your like best man, I guess is what Jeremy Piven is in this movie.
Well, he got it from his fiance.
Oh my God. Yeah, I forgot. That's right. He didn't get it from Piven. Holy shit, that's so much worse.
Isn't it?
So it was originally published in 1985 in Spanish and then translated to English in 1988. But it's basically two people who fell in love when they were young, and they have kind of a secret relationship and exchange love letters. But then her father demands that they stop seeing each other, and they move to another city where they lived with relatives, and then
Get to the
communicating.
cholera. What is happening?
Yeah, I think it's specifically meant to try and be kind of like a mirror for this movie because it's also people that keep rediscovering each other through their lives.
I'm sure. Yeah.
it's good. It's endured because people think it's really good and really like it.
Yeah, like Serendipity. Same level. Yeah. We'll get it.
But yes, so for her to take a first edition of Love in the Time of Cholera and be like, fuck this book though. It's like, what?
I mean, I do think she is like a trust fund kid because she does not seem to have any care for money.
Nobody in this movie seems to have any concept of money. At all, which is great. They're getting married at the Waldorf Astoria, and they cancel the wedding the morning of. Do you have any idea what that would cost? Even in 2001, that's like $50,000 minimum.
Yeah.
If not more. Like, that's so nuts.
Everyone in this movie treats money like Lucille Bluth. I don't know how else to explain it. It's like they don't
How much could a
understand what
banana
anything
cost?
is worth.
$10?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly, Paige.
Yeah.
Everyone's behaving like there's always money in the banana stand. Like, you can't just buy today tickets for a transatlantic flight.
Oh, yeah. In day of, and then also a return flight.
And your buddy's just like, oh, you're going to spend $2,000 on flights? Have fun. I'm definitely not going with you.
Yes. And his whole, like, they're golfing the day of. There's like a dinner. There's like this whole thing. She and Lars live in Sausalito, which we'll get to in just a bit, but that house is millions. Like, that's so expensive.
It's gotta be, right?
Yes.
He is a world famous
clarinetist.
What
He's
is
a
it?
world famous clarinetist.
I think if you'll roll it back, it was famous.
A Shania is what he called
Oh, it's
it.
a Shania. I'm sorry.
A Shania.
It's a Shania specifically.
Wasn't she the Man It Feels Good to Be a Woman or whatever song?
Yeah, Shania.
Let's go, Lars.
Let's go, Lars. God damn you, Paige.
Anyway, they then decide to go to the Waldorf and they're like, okay, we're going to go to different like floors. We each pick a floor. If we end up on the same floor, and they each have one of the gloves. Useless. We each pick a floor. If we end up on the same floor, we see that they pick the same floor. And then he unfortunately gets trapped in the elevator with a hell child.
With the actual devil. This child is wearing a devil costume in December. I don't trust it.
No, Todd, it's definitely a lobster for the play.
It's not really a lobster. He's got a pitchfork.
No, I know. That was the Love Actually joke.
Oh, okay.
I'm the lobster in the nativity.
But there is no explanation for why his dad is wearing a Christmas shirt and the child is in just a full red tight jumpsuit dressed as the devil with what I can only describe as if the devil was French facial hair. Stab, stab, stab.
Le stab.
That is the second best restaurant in all of New York. Welcome to
Is
Le
Le
Stab.
Stab.
It is a French Brazilian steakhouse.
Oh, New York's hottest restaurant is Le Stab, the brainchild of child devil chef Damien. It fuses Brazilian steakhouse with classic French cuisine. And don't forget to watch our sword swallower eat 4 tri-tips at once.
And if you want, slice you off some raw esophagus.
Oh.
Why would you be swallowing a sword in a Brazilian steakhouse?
Because it has meat on it, Todd. Anyway, he doesn't make it to the floor because that kid is evil.
He Buddy the Elf's it.
He Buddy the Elf.
John Cusack is not above, if you were wondering how toxic John Cusack is, he's not above yelling at a child in this moment. He's like, stop hitting the buttons! Like he's like losing his shit.
I have yelled at a child like that in that moment because their parent let them do it. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, this is not an acceptable way to behave in an elevator.
I wrote down in my notes when the dad was like, why are you doing my job? And I was like, but like, that's your job, Dad. Like, maybe don't yell at him, but like, don't let him do. You're in pub. This is not like you can't just do that.
Yes.
He's letting him dress up like the devil 5 days before Christmas.
I don't know how much control he has over his lobster child.
Paige, we only have so much time to build the buzz required to make Le Stab a hit.
The
He's
stab.
gotta wear the costume until launch.
All of our knives are pinchers.
We sell no seafood.
None at all. Only steaks. Because with the whole lobster getup, it's kind of like with Chick-fil-A where they're like
Exactly.
cows, but they're
That's
like
actually
eat
where
more
I was
chicken.
going with it, believe it or not. Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the worst, most confusing ad campaigns that has endured for way too long. But look, hey, there's many more reasons to dislike Chick-fil-A.
Paige, I'm so glad you're bringing this up because much like an ad campaign that we only just like begrudgingly recognize, there's a joke in this movie that is only funny to me, and I insist upon it. And Natalie asked me not to bring it up, but now that you've entered this into the chat, I may have to later on.
I'm very worried about what this is.
It's just about someone's name at the end, babe.
Okay.
John Cusack's name in this movie. Do you know what it is?
Yeah. Is Jonathan Traeger.
Yeah, it's John.
Oh,
Jen.
fuck me.
His name is John. I am John.
He does this thing where he says John like real weird.
Paige, this has been going on for a long time.
Is there a reason?
No, there is no reason. And he thinks it's so funny. And I'm like, no, just
John.
Stop saying John. And he makes that face every time he does
It's a whole character. It's not just me saying John. It's like a whole character I have in my head.
This is like Janice Bacon's this is your
Yes,
Janice
it is,
Bacon's.
Paige, that is probably the best explanation of it. Yes, because it's a whole character, but I have very few lines.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is you say it's this whole character in your head, but all we're hearing is John.
Oh, I get that. Listen, babe, I get that you hate it and you have every right to. I just cannot stop doing it. And I think there's something wrong with me. We might want to go to a doctor.
Let's
Do you want me to introduce you to the new one that my dad and I have as of this morning? Because we created a new family inside joke. Are you familiar with the song Wendy by The Association from the 1960s?
No.
It is a song about a girl named Wendy.
Oh, is it?
It is a very famous song, but it's basically talking about like her going about her day. And then the chorus is like, and Wendy has stormy eyes that flash at the sound of lies. And of course, this morning, we just kept singing it as, who's destroying all of the big buildings, breathing the fire. And it was just like Wendy became a winged reptilian creature. And it was just, everyone knows it's Wendy. Because her name remained Wendy. It's still Wendy.
It was just like wreaking havoc on the city. I love it.
And Wendy has leathery wings that flap through the skies of fire. Like, it was real fun.
I've seen that movie. It's got Christian Bale and they're like dragons or whatever. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. You know the one.
Yeah.
Anyway, John.
John. Come on, John.
Wait, Natalie, have we introduced you to Janice Bacon's?
She edits the podcast.
I mean,
she
you
knows
haven't
Janice
introduced-
Bacon.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you know about
Janice
the
Bacon's.
podcast.
She's very familiar.
That's right.
She's familiar with the Janice Bacons that the audience isn't familiar with because they didn't make the cut.
You know about Janice Bacon's.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 bacons, please. Anyways. So he doesn't make it on the floor. But here's the thing is like she sits in front of the elevator, waits.
Yeah.
Which to me suggested that she wanted to do it no matter what.
When she throws the glove, you can see it on her face as the thing is closing because she hasn't even given her name to him. And she's like, she says her name, but what she is like conveying is, please find me.
Yeah.
And she is like so scared when the elevator is closing that that's the last time she's ever going to see him. And it is for years.
Years.
Well, she has like tears in her eyes when she's sitting there. And I was like, girl, you are way too invested in this.
Well, and I'm like, you could have stopped this at any time.
This is all her. Yes.
This is your fault.
Yes.
At any time, you could have been like, my name is Sarah. I am interested. I don't have a boyfriend. I just wanted nice gloves for me for Christmas. Please give me the gloves and let's get a room at the Waldorf Astoria because money means nothing to us.
Because what even is money, right? But like Paige, if that was me and I had that moment of realization when like Natalie, I threw the glove to Natalie and I saw the elevator close, my ass would have been in the lobby waiting for a Natalie-shaped figure to walk towards the front door. And I would have run, maybe not run, but I would have like walked up and been like, hey, I'm so sorry I did that stupid elevator thing. Please, let's just forget about that and like go and be together forever or whatever. I would not just leave like, oh, I guess fate got me.
Fate got me. I would have waited longer on the 23rd floor.
Yeah.
Because I would have assumed that he was going to probably try every floor, which is what he does.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because the kid pressed all the buttons and she misses him by only like a second, but they walk out of each other's lives.
It's very sad. And did we talk about the book? We talked about how she wrote her information in the book and then is going to sell it to a bookstore. By the way, I looked this up too. 1 in 5 million chance that he'd find that book, which is way better than the currency thing. Like his odds are way better.
Here's the other thing. They met locally in Manhattan.
Yeah.
I know it's Manhattan. I know it's big, just like Los Angeles is big, San Francisco is big.
Paige, yes. If that was Natalie and I knew what book she wrote her name in, I would go not the next day, but the day after the next day because she was going to sell it, right?
Right.
And you've got to give her the whole day to do that. I don't want to whatever. And then on that next day, like if she did that on a Tuesday, I'd be there on Wednesday. I'd go to every fucking used bookstore that buys books in all of Manhattan in that day. I would be so fast. I'd be calling.
Yes.
Like, did someone write their information in it? Can you just tell me what it is?
Yeah. Here's my phone number. If you get a copy of this book, please call me.
Yes. The level of committedness that John Cusack is to this random lady that he has talked to for 4 hours while in a relationship, is nuts for the follow through. He has zero follow through on that book. He's I guess I'll look for it occasionally when I'm out.
Yeah, just passively.
It's crazy.
They did say, he and Jeremy Piven did say that they went through every bookstore in Manhattan years ago. So apparently he did try to do that, but who knows if it was the next day.
And here's the thing. It's a hardcover with a tear on the that book is the most findable thing in this movie.
It's way better than Abraham Lincoln. You're never going to find that $5 bill. That's gone.
Never.
Yeah.
That's gone. Anyway, we cut to a few years in the future and Jeremy Piven is giving a bonkers best man speech. It is very cringe.
It is 100% about Jeremy Piven, and I love that about Jeremy Piven is no matter what role he's in, his character's about Jeremy Piven. You know what I'm saying?
That is true.
He plays a very, this is going to sound insane, but he plays an affable, almost charming narcissist.
Yes.
Yeah.
In pretty much every role he plays. And I genuinely, I think he's very serviceable in movies, you know?
Sure,
But
he's
he
not
always plays
bad in
that
this.
kind of guy. No, I think he's fine in this page.
It's the writing that's bad.
Yeah.
But they finish up the dinner and it sounded like this was the dinner at the beginning of the week before a wedding when all the families get into town and whatever.
Yeah, it's the starting of all the events that lead up to the wedding that is going to take place at the end of this movie.
Right.
Yeah.
And he is oh, I got to work tomorrow. And so he just walks through the streets. He clearly didn't have to work, but he didn't want to be with everyone else.
Yeah.
Which is our first clue that he's not into this.
Right?
Yeah.
Not into his wife or fiance, who is a legit supermodel, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
Not that Kate Beckinsale isn't attractive either, but
No.
They look very similar. He's got a type.
Eugene Levy calls her, Miss Carbon Copy, and she is very much a carbon copy of his previous fiance. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But also, he's referring to the carbon copy that they had to go find. And
I
scratch.
know. I know. I just think because the writing is so good in this movie, Paige, you've said that many times, that they nailed it. It's just so layered. It's so great. It's so layered John Cusack could be after he first meets Eugene Levy because of the amount of clothing he has to buy. $700 at Bloomingdale's? What is that, a jacket?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was
At Hermes? Yeah.
when he pulls that, well, we'll get to it. We'll talk about it when we get there.
We're not quite there. I'm sorry to bring it up.
But he goes walking and he finds a bookseller on the side of the road. He sees that they have the book. He looks inside. It's not the one, right? But he keeps going. And as he's walking, he seems to kind of encounter stuff about her. But we cut to her. She is in San Francisco now. She is a therapist. And we watch her come home to her house in Sausalito after taking the ferry. And it is a gorgeous house.
Yeah.
Covered in petals, a Pier 1 imports amount of candles. And did either of you find this weird that he wasn't even there for the proposal?
Yes.
He comes out, but she's already got the ring box. And to me, it was just he couldn't even be there for this.
Yeah.
He's an artist. He's busy. He's going to outsource the labor of this proposal to somebody else. And
his assistant definitely set that up.
You'll figure it out. It's a gift. Open it up. Tell me, just check the box, yes or no, and send it to me. It's fine. No, I honestly think he's terrible. I don't think he's a very good guy at all.
Well, and okay, so is he going to clean up all that tissue paper and boxes that she just tore up? I'd seriously doubt it.
Of course
Like
not.
that was, if somebody did that for me, I was like, okay, you're going to throw all this away, right? Because
Right.
I'm not going to do it.
And also, I'm glad you didn't burn the house down with this
With
many
all the
candles.
and the fireplace.
Well, and he's like, we got to fit our honeymoon into the tour. How does Bora Bora sound? And I was like, tour? Oh no, she's dating a musician. But then we cut to what is essentially, I would say, like proto Topgolf, where he's like doing a news story on the existence of a Topgolf.
This would have been revolutionary technology in
A
2001.
driving range?
A place where you can go and have business meetings downtown New York playing golf. Amazing.
A driving range in Manhattan is pretty
Unique,
different.
sure.
Like, because there's not a lot of places to have a driving range in that area. So they did say that it was a pier, that there was like a
Yeah.
decommissioned pier or something like that they turned into a driving range. So I'm sure at that point in time, that was a big deal.
Yeah. But he hears someone with the name Sarah, which the fact that he's like, it's fate. There was someone named Sarah. And I was like,
Who was British?
who is British? I'm going to look up something really quick.
Yeah, I looked it up, Paige. Sarah was a very uncommon name at this time. No, it's very common. Like, there's definitely
Yeah.
a lot of British Sarahs in New York. I couldn't tell you the number, but it's more than one.
But then there's the guy next to the taxi singing Sarah, and then the girl that's supposed to cut his hair, his name is Sarah.
Yeah.
Sarah was the 6th most popular name in the world in 2001. 6th in the world.
So you're saying there's a chance.
So you're saying there's a chance. And yes, he does try to go get his hair cut. That lady's name is Sarah too. And he then goes to Jeremy Piven and is like, I've met 2 girls named Sarah. She's everywhere. And I'm like, you've probably met 2 girls named Sarah every day in your life, and you just did not know it. That's how common that name is. Oh, I have 2 cousins named Sarah on the same side.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're only 3 years apart. We did it once and they were like, let's do it again. Like, that's how common the name is.
That's how I know when I'm around Paige's family, because someone's yelling, "Hey, Sarah's!"
Anyway, Jeremy Piven is like, why would you risk your current relationship for this? And he's like, no, I just need to know. Like, and I'm like, this is still very cheaty.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's legit trying to have an emotional affair at least.
Yeah, he's having an emotional affair with a person that doesn't exist, that he has built up in his own mind.
I mean,
Yeah.
he is looking for a new branch to jump to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, he is unable to make the commitment that he has said he wants to make to Haley, his fiance. So he's just like trying to find an excuse or a reason to like leave.
Right.
Well, and this to me, like one of the most dangerous things I think you can do in a relationship is entertain too much and idealize other people. Because yes, like Paige said, you're going to
Yeah.
see people that you think are attractive.
Sure.
But if you entertain what it would be like with them or idealize them in any way and think anything past, oh, they're attractive, that becomes dangerous because then you start comparing your significant other to this ideal in your mind and it
Right.
opens up other things.
Who is a person that you don't know even.
Yeah.
Because you know your partner so much better than you know this other person because you're
Right.
actually with them every day.
Yeah.
Anyway, Jeremy Piven's like, I'm going to need information to do this. But instead they hit the bookstores again, which the likelihood that the book would still be in bookstores 10 years or I guess even 3 to 4 years later, way less likely than if he had
Yeah.
gone out the week after.
Yeah, because if someone buys that book, it's in their house until that person's dead, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if he had gone out, even if she had not sold the book yet, if he had gone out to all the bookstores the week that it happened, he would have at least been like, hey, when you get this book in, please call me. Like,
Yeah.
he would have probably found it anyway. But he's sitting with his fiance, Hallie, and she's like, you know, I love you. Say something romantic like I'm the only girl meant for you. And he like won't say it.
Well, it's not that he won't say it. Fate intervenes here. Like the timer
Yeah.
goes off and he has to get up.
Well, it's the fire alarm goes off.
The alarm. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. But she had cleared out his closet to pack for the honeymoon. and in doing so also found the bag with the glove because he has always kept it. And in it, he finds the receipt with an account number on it.
Yeah.
Oh, and can we say that this apartment is actually one of the most accurate looking
Yes.
New York apartments to me?
Yeah.
Like 2 people living in that tiny little
In
apartment.
a studio apartment. Yes.
I was like, this is accurate. Like you rarely see in movies an accurate depiction of, and I mean, I'm sure that apartment was still insanely expensive. Like
Oh,
I'm sure
God,
it took
yes.
both of their incomes to pay for it. But I was like, this one's realistic.
I don't think it took both of their incomes because I don't think his fiance works. And I only say that because her parents are dropping, I looked it up, Paige, I'm so sorry, at least $160,000 on that wedding.
Yeah.
Oh, and they just cancel it on a whim. So like, I don't think that
Yeah.
they care about money. I think that they care so little about money that they're going to let their heiress marry this lowly producer at ESPN, which would probably be a pretty decent paying job, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, and if you look at the apartment, their kitchen is in the same room as their bed,
Yep.
which is how you know, but they also don't have a couch or any other furniture because when she walks past out into the hallway to be like, I'm going to go yell at the super, she like leaves and we kind of watch her walk through what would have been the rest of the apartment. There is no rest of the apartment.
Yeah.
Like that's just it. But yeah,
Yep.
probably the most accurate New York apartment we've seen. But we then cut to Lars's band performing and no. Mm-mm. And she seems genuinely turned on by him and his band. And ma'am.
Paige, I find the most unbelievable part of this movie was that like anybody was at this show.
Thank
He
you.
had a standing ovation.
A standing ovation, and he's got a world tour, and he has managed to barely pack out a bar.
Yeah.
It's like a CBGB's level club. Like it's not big. It's sort of like long and thinnish.
Right.
So like you could fill it. You could pack that place out with like 150 people, of which there might be 80 in this scene.
There are maybe 80 people in
Yeah.
this scene. And for him to have booked international dates and filmed a music video and like be air quotes, he's almost like a Kenny G.
I don't know. Did Kenny G stop any like medieval battles from taking place with the power of song?
Only the one in my heart. But like that one for sure.
Yeah.
But everything they portray about him is someone way more famous than what we're actually seeing. Because like, here's the thing. I have done many, many, many shows that size. And I have also performed overseas. I have not been on a multi-country tour that stops off in Bora Bora for a honeymoon. Like,
Right.
that's insane.
It's good work if you can get it.
Yeah, please, if anyone wants to, make that happen.
Playing the Ocarina of Time or whatever it is. I don't know what it is. But like people are into it. So like I'm glad he's having a good time.
I'm just picturing somebody doing a like recorder version of My Heart Will Go On and but like cutting back to her in the audience like, oh my God.
At least that would be a song I recognized. I would prefer that.
Here's the thing. I'm sure it's hard to play that instrument. But as much as I was like, no, I was like, I would love to see this show
Yes.
with a friend and just be like, he's serious?
Paige, this is my Eras tour. Rude. I'm giving out beads that say weird by choice on it.
Weird by choice?
Or just it has like a one question that you should ask yourself every time you go and see this guy perform this music. And if you just look down at the beads, it spells out, is this appropriation, question mark?
Oh my God, I thought the same thing. I was like, how many sitars are on stage right now?
None, but there's one ocarina. Like, I don't even know what instrument this is.
It's a Shania, a Twain.
You say that like I should know what a Shania is.
I only know because he says it. I have never heard of one outside of this movie.
I'm looking it up right now. A type of oboe. It's an oboe.
An oboe?
Oh, that's why she's with him, guys. He can play a double reed. You know what that means. Woo, that dexterity. Yeah, she's into it. I get it.
It originated from the Indian subcontinent with a double reed at one end and a metal or wooden flared bell at the other. It's one of 9 instruments found in the Royal Court of India. So yes, It is cultural appropriation.
I was going to say, well, that answers my bracelet question.
There is also a Nepalese version with a similar name.
Nepalese.
Now, here's where I do think this movie was hilariously accurate, and that is it posits a San Francisco that has multiple New Age or Eastern musicians, stores, food, and it's all white people doing it. I was like, well, they nailed San Francisco. So anyway, now we find out in this scene that he's concerned about merch. He's changing the date of their wedding and their honeymoon because that is not his first priority. This is as close as this movie gets to making him into a villain. Anyway, she leaves. She
also, her sister is going to house her, which comes back later.
That is important, yes.
But she runs out into Chinatown in the rain and does see a very cool Hand Luke poster in Chinese, or in Mandarin, it looks like. Very cool. But we then cut to the next day. She's talking to Molly Shannon, who owns a New Age, like, mystical magic accoutrement store. And it seems like most of it is bullshit, and even she doesn't really believe in it. It is what I like to call white lady magic.
Yes.
Because there's definitely... And Los Angeles, guilty as hell of this. Stores for people who are cultural practitioners of naturalist religions and magic and folk magic. There are places for them to get their supplies. And then there is a store for a white bitch to buy crystals. And then they like the white lady store is very much like, and this sage is for whatever, but it is purely for white ladies who are not going to do the cultural understanding and work to do the full natural religion. Yes. And I always kind of find it funny when people point that out in movies. This is early for that, but
it is.
Anyway,
yeah.
The Casanova candle is insane.
I love when it cuts back to her like waving at the lady who's holding the candle in the window. She's like, she's such a pain in the ass. Like she's like waving at her in the window talking to Kate. It's so funny.
But this is also one of like many scenes in this movie that points out that a reliance on fate is not good.
Yeah.
And like in this one where she's like, if she just buys that candle and lights it and leaves it all up to the candle, nothing would happen. As opposed to her saying, I need to take initiative in my own life to make things happen, or at least I need to engage with more people, meet new people. Like, I'm not living up my agency in this situation.
She says that she's lighting that candle waiting for Mr. Right when Mr. Good Enough for Right Now is at the corner bar.
Right? Yes. But it's the same thing with soulmates of like, you know, you're waiting for this one perfect person who will be the most perfect instead of someone that you can learn to grow along with. Anyway.
Yeah.
So we cut to Bloomingdale's where they're trying to get Eugene Levy to give them the information on the account number. He makes him buy $700 worth of stuff. I did look up how much Hermes ties are right now. They retail currently for $260.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, which is less than I expected because the scarves can be anywhere from like $1,500 to $2,000.
Yeah. Not to mention the Birkin bags that are like $23,000.
That's if you can get one because you have to usually order them custom.
Yes, that is exactly right.
By the way, they were $90 in 2001?
95, yeah.
$95. So if you adjust for inflation, that would be $169. So not only have they gone up more than inflation, which has already been a lot, they've also gone up about 100% over that.
I can explain this, actually.
It's called general corporate greed.
Anyway, so he pays for like $700 worth of stuff to help Eugene Levy make his sales draw. But he can't find anything on that account number. It's a dead account. But if she applied for a credit card, they might be able to find her credit card application in this one warehouse that an employee can get into. I'm here to tell you that I worked my first job in retail 2 or 3 years after this. And even if your store had a credit card, you had no access to it because the credit card was owned by another credit card company.
Yeah.
Like this section of the movie is impossible. But fine. We cut to the Viking music video. I wanted so much more of this. It's so nuts.
This is so funny.
It's so nuts. And to find out that it's an oboe, it's not even a clarinet. I was like, what?
Paige, believe me, you would rather your boyfriend be great at the oboe than the clarinet.
Would I? I'd rather he had cool hobbies.
Well, I mean, okay, but like, if you had a choice between oboe and clarinet.
Are we talking mouth talent here?
Does it make a mouth difference?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yes, double reed instruments are way more aggressively hard to play.
Okay, so we want the double read.
Sure, but like, how does that translate to what I want mouths to do? Because if his mouth is too strong, that ain't good.
I don't know, tongue strength.
It would have to be so accurate that you could control both of the reeds at the same time, one with your bottom, one with your top lip.
Okay.
I know fundamentally how it works, but I could not do it. The only thing I can do with an oboe is make it sound like a duck.
Don't sell yourself short, babe.
All right. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't play oboe.
All right.
You know what I mean? I don't mean I don't get down, but I don't play oboe.
The song is called Mystic Surrender. But I do love that he points out, he's like, it looks like this one guy hates the music in the music video. I was like, it does.
You know what? They're in awe. And they're thankful.
Well, and he's like, after this, shouldn't they go off to some feast? I was like, this seems like something you should have brought up yesterday at the film shoot. I also love that they're just watching it on his TV at home and not in like an editing bay somewhere.
It seemed like he was like watching it on like MTV6, and he was pausing it with his TiVo because he's like just on his TV. It's so weird.
It's really weird.
Like, if you're having edit notes at this stage, like, you missed a lot of meetings, my man.
Yeah. You missed the storyboarding meeting where they planned out what they were gonna shoot.
Yeah.
Like, anyway, she comes home and is like, I'm losing it. I actually put my keys in the freezer. I think I'm gonna go out to New York just to get away. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, go ahead. So she goes and sees Molly Shannon and is like, come to New York with me for your birthday, wink, wink. And she's like, no ulterior motives? She's like, none at all. See you in New York, yay.
She's a villain.
Yep.
Totally. Let me kidnap you to New York so I can force you to like help me find this guy.
Right. So they fly to New York.
Great friend.
Meanwhile, in the credit card archives that you definitely would not have access to, Eugene Levy is giving Jeremy Piven a back massage. They're all looking for it. He finds it. It's kind of smudged. We don't have her last name, but we do have the account number. And that means that there's an address that they can look up with the leasing company.
Yeah, because they have an old address on that account, on the carbon copy, right?
Right.
I do love when Jen yells and it's like, I got it, I found it, or whatever.
Right.
That's when Eugene Levy is massaging Jeremy Piven and they like jump and run. And then like Eugene Levy is like, he's like holding a gun, like he's like a spy, but it's definitely just like his fingers. It's not a real gun.
Yes.
So it's just like this grown ass man is just playing, and I love it. I sort of love that like he doesn't know these people and he is just here to make it the weirdest experience possible he can for those two people, and then walk away and pretend like he does not know them.
I think he's like, look, I made my sales draw. I'm just here for adventure.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, I hit my quota this week. I literally don't have to go back to the office, so I may as well just fuck around with these guys. And I wanted him to be there the rest of the movie. I wanted him to be the last guy in the like chain of dudes when they get married at the end. Like, that's what I wanted. Like, it cuts to 3 years later, they're getting married and Eugene Levy's on the end. You're like, oh shit, nice.
Oh, hey.
I want Eugene Levy's Adventures in New York movie.
Just wandering around New York where he's just like, oh, bagels.
Like,
You're like,
just
oh,
him
nice.
experiencing the city, having adventures, because it would be hilarious.
That would be great. But they land in New York and she has to reveal to Molly Shannon, like, oh, we're here to try and find the guy. And she's like, come on. And she's like, I don't know, maybe he'll be a bald fascist who like rubs his boogers on the bottom of benches.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right. So Molly Shannon like agrees to go with her. And their first stop is the Waldorf. Now, if they had just stayed at the Waldorf, they would have found him.
He's getting married there. Like that. Yes, they definitely would have found him.
In fact, not only would she have found him, she probably would have seen his name.
Oh, yeah. Paige, there's no way that like Haley's pretentious family doesn't have signs up everywhere. If you're looking for the Haley Buchanan John Traeger wedding, it's over here.
Right. Well, and we know his name is Jonathan. They know it is, right?
He goes by John.
He goes by John. Anyway, meanwhile, they go to the leasing office and they browbeat this child into giving them the information by telling him that the internet's never going to go anywhere.
Paige, what they actually say is what everyone who's like an Elon Musk fanboy needs to listen
Needs to hear now. Yeah, that's true.
Because it is like these people who are like making nothing but making tons of money and not really producing anything are like hoarding wealth and destroying our lives. So you shouldn't stand up for them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I actually really liked what Jeremy Piven was saying. I was like, this guy's got some great ideas, so much so that like he might not make it. Like they might kill him off. He might get arrested. You might see him eventually walking into New York with like 20 cops around him.
Well, and we can only hope that his lawyer is as good as the lawyer dealing with that these days.
That guy's got a million alibis online.
Oh, yeah. But also, he's in good hands. That lady knows her shit. I was like, oh, he's going to get off. Like, this is
I definitely think he's
wild.
going to get murdered in jail, but yeah.
Probably. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
of course. I mean, and bummer. But like, you know,
Everyone who's done things like that to that class gets taken out quick.
gets murdered in jail.
Yeah.
Anyone that tries to unite the classes,
Yeah.
the lower classes, gets murdered.
Yep. Anyway, John Cusack, blows off his own, like he's, the whole day that he's supposed to be getting ready for his wedding rehearsal, whatever, he's like, we're going to go find this guy. So they go find Sebastian Mignon, who is the guy that lived there. So they're going to go find him. Meanwhile, she and Molly Shannon buy fake Prada wallets. That's going to come up later. Prado. And they run into an advertisement for the driving range. And they just go. There's no reason for them to go. This is a point in the movie where they forgot causality needed to be a thing. Because they just pick up a thing and they're like, oh yeah, we'll go. They go and they almost, like, when he reviews his, like, B-roll, she's going to be in it.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that's how he was going to find her, is that he was going to go back through the B-roll and she's going to be there. But Molly Shannon gets hit twice in the head at the golf range. Love that. Love that she hits ricochet and on a backswing.
In my last job, I talked to a lot of doctors. I would interview like surgeons and doctors and stuff. And for reasons I know that a hit to the back of the head like that, the occipital region of the head can cause concussions, skull fractures, traumatic brain injuries. Like if that had happened to her, she would have been in the hospital for 5 to 7 days.
Yeah.
And it would have cost her $300,000 without going to rehab afterwards.
Yes.
Like the fact that they're just like at an empty serendipity after this is nuts.
It's nuts.
She's like, I'm sorry you got brain damage. Can I buy you a hot chocolate?
A frozen hot chocolate. You're going to
Frozen
get
hot
brain freeze to go with that brain damage.
You're welcome.
But they, meanwhile, go talk to the guy that she used to live with, Mignon, like the meat. But he said that she used to live there with her boyfriend, but then they broke up, and then she moved out shortly after, which does tell us that she might not have had a boyfriend when she met John Cusack. But they do ask, he's like, I did used to paint her. They're like, do you still have the painting? And that painting is nuts. That's the hardest laugh I had in the movie was that painting.
It is very funny.
And I was like, all I need is for them to take it with them and compare later.
It is very funny. I really wanted, when they're talking to the guy who gives him the address to the painter, and because the kid like makes a point of like, no, it's mignon, like it's French or whatever.
Yeah.
And it like hard cuts to them meeting the painter. I wanted him to like aggressively be from Jersey or like someplace that is not France.
Minion.
Yeah. And-
Sebastian
exactly. I
Minion.
wanted it to be like the opposite of what that guy set up. But no, it's just some weird French painter who did not paint, let's just say, a photorealistic portrait of Kate Beckinsale.
And does not take one drag of his cigarette that he's holding.
No.
Does not drag it once.
This cigarette is very performative in nature. It is there so it just draws the eye, but it is not to smoke. No.
So I look cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
I know that was a terrible French impression. I cannot tell you how proud I am of it. Like that is probably the best work I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
And it was trash.
That was good for you.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah. You could totally be Lumiere.
It was good. It's better than your John impression.
Oh, God.
John?
No.
Anyway, so we cut to an empty serendipity where Molly Shannon is just eating food, right?
Yeah.
But this is where it turns out as she goes to like make change for the bill, she gets the $5 that
Molly
has
Shannon
the
does.
writing on it. Molly Shannon does.
Yeah.
Puts it in her wallet. They go outside They get in a taxi. They go back to the Waldorf. Meanwhile, and he misses them, just barely misses them in the taxi because he's trying to go to the building that was next to Serendipity, which is now a bridal shop, which at this point he takes as a sign that he should just marry the lady he's with. And I do love Jeremy Piven's like, so what's a sign and what's not? Like, can you explain to me? And he's like, no. And his explanation makes no sense.
What's a clue and what's a sign, he says.
What's a clue and what's a sign?
His differentiation between clue and sign made sense to me. Like a clue is like,
Yeah.
this is a bit of information we can use to look up something else that might help us find her. A sign is something, it's more or less, he doesn't say this, but it is like, it is things I see along the way that support my toxicity.
Yeah.
Right.
And you were my friend that supports my toxicity.
Right.
So like that is the relationship going on with that side of things.
I do love that Jeremy Piven's like, they should make pills for this. But anyway, we cut back to the Waldorf, and it turns out Molly Shannon knows John Cusack's fiance, and she's like, oh, come to the wedding rehearsal or whatever. But Kate Beckinsale doesn't go. And like, she misses this whole thing. But John Cusack meets Molly Shannon. And my thing is like, Molly Shannon's been helping her look for this guy. How did she not put 2 and 2 together a little bit at this wedding to be like, maybe this is the guy?
Because they know his name is John, right?
Right.
Jonathan.
Jonathan.
Oh, God.
John.
Yeah. Anyway, Kate Beckinsale goes back to her room, and Lars
Oh,
is...
babe, we missed the line.
Oh, what was the line?
It's so funny.
Oh,
It's so
yes.
funny.
Yeah.
But
So
it's
the
so
line
funny.
the line I wanted, baby, I don't even know if you wanted me to do this because like I could see you not wanting to do this, but I would love for you to do your best impression of you and your sister's favorite line from this movie because you did it
Okay.
while she was doing it while we were watching the movie and it was so fucking cute.
It's Molly Shannon. But it's when she's like, well, you can bring your partner. And she's like, oh, no, I'm about to go see or go call my fiance, who's a man.
Right.
And
I love that the old lady is like, you must be proud. Like, okay,
must
whatever.
be
Like
so
nobody
proud.
asked.
yeah, you must be so proud. But when she gets into the elevator, she goes, bye, my sweet lady lesbian lover. I don't know why. She's like, I'm just kidding. It's just a joke between us.
It reminds me of in Mean Girls with the, I've got a big lesbian crush on you.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, I get it. I think Kate Beckinsale was one of my first crushes I had on a girl.
Sure. She's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prefer her vampire werewolf movies, but sure.
Underworld, yes.
I think
yes.
she does too. She did way more of them than like rom-coms, and she's good in this rom-com. Like she could have done this or done this lane.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't she married to the guy who makes the Underworld movies?
I think so, or was during that time. Yeah. But I mean, all I'm saying is like she definitely had options to work in this type of movie that weren't her husband's movies, you know?
Yeah.
Or am I thinking of Mila Jovovich and Resident Evil? I might be
Ooh.
thinking of Mila Jovovich.
Yeah.
Nobody knows, really. There's no way to look it up.
Nope. Anyway, Lars is in the hallway.
Yeah, okay, so I did just look it up. I'm so sorry.
Sure.
Len Wiseman is married to Kate Beckinsale, and he does make the Underworld movie.
Okay, all right. So I wasn't crazy.
So, yeah, and listen, it may just be that they like working together, and that's why she's done so many of those movies and not a lot of
Sure.
rom-coms. I'm just saying she could have because she can do that kind of acting, too.
Look, no offense. If I had a choice, I would always pick werewolves and vampires over rom-coms.
Same.
Fuck yes, me too. Yeah.
Same.
Anyway, so Lars is in the hallway and she's like, how'd you know where I was? And he's like, intuition. Just kidding. I called every hotel and started with Z. And I was like, that would take days.
There aren't that many hotels in New York. Come on.
Thank God Waldorf Astoria starts with W.
Yeah.
But he's like, I missed you so much, which also I was like, toxic. You couldn't let her go away for 2 days.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Meanwhile, Molly Shannon's going to go to the wedding or whatever. Kate Beckinsale's going to go out with Lars. While that's happening, John Cusack and Hallie have this conversation where Hallie's like, hey, you've been kind of fucking disappearing. Like, what is going on? There's something up with you. Anyway, here's your gift. And he doesn't have one for her. He's like, oh, I forgot it. So whatever. But it is the book and it does have Sarah's name in it. And he immediately is like, let's look her up. We've got this old phone number. Let's find an address. They find out that she lives in California. And they literally fucking fly to California.
Which is a long flight.
It's fine. He's getting married in the morning. They got plenty of time.
Insane.
He literally says on the flight, if we're delayed 10 minutes, I miss my wedding.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What are you doing? And then Jeremy Piven sits there and like takes all of the right lessons from this terrible, wrong, like action they're doing, right?
Right.
Because
right.
this, like, I think this realization that he's having on the plane sort of maybe doesn't save his relationship, but like makes him realize that he is at least partially to blame into why he and his wife aren't like on great terms currently, right?
Right.
And like by the end of this movie, he is like resolute in like getting the magic back in his marriage.
Right.
And I was like, man, you hung out with the worst person possible and took all the right lessons out of it, because he takes like all of this like romance stuff that like John Cusack is building or trying to build with Kate and like applies it to like the person he's actually with, which I wish John Cusack could do.
Right. Right. But instead, no.
No.
Meanwhile, Sarah and Lars are out, and we find out that they're canceling Dusseldorf. And like, even though he was trying to have a romantic night with her and was like, I miss you, he's still working through it. She is an afterthought. So she goes and sits next to that roller rink
Yeah.
and is just kind of sad about it. Meanwhile, they arrive in California, where they encounter, and I also, this is some Bay Area geography. They probably had to fly into SFO, right? And then from there had to drive to Sausalito. Not crazy far, but it's not super easy. Like it's a drive, right? And so then they would have to get back to the airport, back on the plane. Like,
Yeah.
this is fraud. The second he got on that plane, he was missing that wedding.
Yeah.
Anyway, they encounter the house sitters, her sister and boyfriend, having tons of sex against a window. Good for them. But this is where we get the one really good line in this movie of, I think we're laying in the grass here because you don't want to be standing somewhere else. Basically, like, you don't want to get married. This doesn't really have anything to do with Sarah.
Yeah.
You don't want to get married. And then the movie is like, just kidding, it was Sarah the whole time.
So I think at this point, John Cusack is not flying home to get married. He's flying home to end the wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
I think so
he
too.
knows he doesn't want to get married. And I honestly think that Kate Beckinsale's already had that realization too with
With Lars.
With Lars. Although wouldn't that be the coup, Luigi? Get on
Oh
it.
my God.
But like, I think at the same time that Jeremy Piven and John Cusack are having that realization, she is breaking up with Lars in New York.
Right.
Yeah.
We just don't see it until after it happens because we don't ever see their actual breakup. But
Right.
when your guy is getting canceled in most of Middle Europe, like you do not continue
you
on
gotta
with that
get out of
fiance.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we overhear an announcement for a flight delay, but then we see her flight. That flight delay, I think it was for her flight, but it's meant to make us think it was for John Cusack's, although we will find out later that they made their flight. He just canceled the wedding before it happened.
Yeah.
But on the flight, she goes to pay for headsets because that used to be a thing. And turns out she has Molly Shannon's wallet, which, no offense, a friend and I have never switched wallets.
No.
Do you and your friend own an identically same wallet, save one letter on the front?
No, but also this is a thing. Natalie backed me up on this.
She wouldn't dare. Sorry.
Women who carry purses, as the women we see in this movie do,
Yeah.
keep their wallets in their purses.
Yes.
And you don't go into anyone else's purse ever unless they tell you to.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
that's
So
true. Yeah.
why would they have different wallet? Like, why would they have
Okay,
switched the wallets?
Only thing I can figure
Fate.
is they were staying in the same room
Mhm.
in the hotel, and they like had their stuff out on the bed or out on a
As they were
desk or something, and they
packing.
just grabbed the wrong one. That's the only thing that would make sense to me. But again, I don't know why their wallets would have been out of their purses.
Thank you.
But-
Yeah. Because, like, again, that's the only way it could happen. But your wallet stays in your purse, and she's got
Yeah.
her purse as a carry-on. So why would you ever have it out?
Yeah.
Same. Anyway, she switched it. So she's got the $5, and she's like, oh my God, I got to get off the plane. So she gets off the plane.
What if she had gone right, like, because she like steals the $5 back,
Right.
and then like runs off the plane, which lets you know this was filmed way before 9/11 because
Oh, I have fun facts about 9/11 for this movie, but
no,
sure.
because an air marshal would have shot her before she got off the plane. Is all I'm saying. But
Yeah.
but she is able to both board and then thieve money off of the plane
Right.
without her ID. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't have her wallet page. She has Molly
Yeah.
Shannon's wallet, and she does not look like Molly Shannon. But
She does not.
what if she had run immediately to Subway and bought a footlong, and then the rest of this movie was just 5 minutes of her eating that sandwich with the $5 footlong and eating her $5 footlong, and then like credits.
Drastic improvement.
Boom.
Would love.
Nailed it.
But She gets out. The cab takes her to his house, and they're like, but his wedding, he's getting married today. If you go, you could still catch him. So she gets to the Waldorf Astoria, and they're like, yeah, the wedding is over because it did not go well.
Paige, I have to bring up this guy because I don't know who this actor is. He does seem like he might be in other things because I love his performance.
Sure.
But he plays it like when a wedding gets canceled, it is the best fucking day of the year for him. He's like he's like
so
packing
excited.
up chairs like, hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. I love when weddings get canceled. He's like so jazzed.
They always give the presents back. He's just so into it. He's like, I love it when it doesn't work out. My favorite are the objections.
He's like super chatty. It's great. Yeah.
I love it when someone stands up and is like, I fucked the groom. Like, I love it.
He's like, he got this job. That's a retired man. He does not need to work.
No.
He does this because he realized late in life that he loves watching relationships fall apart.
Sure.
And so he got a job where he got to watch that in the wild.
Look, we all watch Ultimatum.
Ooh.
They should not be allowed to do ultimatum. Like, we need like a board that like just monitors what the Lachey's are trying to produce next. And then if they do anything worse than the ultimatum, they roll up a newspaper and hit him in the face and say no. Because the ultimatum is an insane premise for a show. And I love
It's
it.
awful.
Yeah.
It's awful and great.
I know, it's so fun to watch, but Jesus Christ.
I can't wait for his season. Oh, it's going to be good.
Jesus is
Yeah.
But I couldn't understand why she didn't just go back to the house after she found out the wedding was called off, because he has to go home eventually.
Oh yeah.
You mean to his home?
Yeah.
She knows where it is.
She does sort of talk to Molly Shannon. And I would assume that they had that conversation of like, oh my God, I guess it was the guy I met.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the person who's marrying my friend. I guess it was him because she knows his name at that point because the bill had the name on it.
Right.
But I mean, she wouldn't know where he is either. So like, I thought that was, I honestly wanted that conversation where Molly Shannon's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You met Jen? Anyway,
But instead what we get is him walking through a park with Jeremy Piven,
yeah,
reading the most pretentious, awful obituary I've ever heard.
perfect.
And like revealing that he called the wedding off regardless of Sarah. Like it was just because he didn't want to get married.
Yeah.
But then he goes to the roller rink where she realizes she left her jacket there. And apparently she doesn't know that this is New York and thinks it'll still be there.
And he's using her jacket at the end as a pillow, right?
Yeah, he finds it and picks it up. He doesn't know it's hers.
I mean, I would assume not. Like, he's not a dog. He's not like, this smells just like that smell I smelled 3 years ago that night.
Years ago.
Also, just don't pick up a stray piece of clothing in New York unless you want to end up with scabies. Like, it's just not.
You're all making very good points about why you shouldn't pick up clothes, but I am now thinking about a rom-com where some guy has an extrasensory smell perception, like he's just really good and he works for the cops, sort of like a police dog, but as a human. It's better because he can communicate better. But he falls in love through scent, and then like, it's sort of like this, but he sniffs her across New York and they find each other and they get together. And that movie is called Turner and Smooch. Anyway.
Aw, Turner and Smooch.
Guys, I've got a call into Tom Hanks. And, he's responding.
Oh.
No, this is from his lawyer. It says fuck off.
Oh,
Okay.
Please cease and desist. I get it. Okay. But he then lays down in the middle of the roller rink and then she throws that glove from like 4 miles away.
Paige, she should be a pitcher. Like, if you could throw a glove from the mound to the catcher and have him actually catch it, the force that it had to have been thrown with. Like, that's an insane amount of force.
It's like Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised she didn't yell funky butt lovin'. Like, it was that amount of force as she throws as she throws the glove. It's crazy.
Yep.
It's great. But
He doesn't catch it. It lands on his face. It's so weird.
he caught it with his face. It's a face catch.
I mean, you know how you catch with your face, like that time when you were a kid and a ball hit you in the head and you were like, oh, I caught it with my face.
He catches it and it's like, hi, I'm John, I'm Sarah. And then they have one of the most awkward on-screen kisses I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because he misses her lips and they still kept it in.
Romance, baby. Romance.
But then we cut to them making out at the glove counter, and Eugene Levy is just like, hey, what's up? You guys can't drink here.
And they're
like, don't you remember
You
us?
can't drink wine at a store.
Cannot.
Bloomingdale's isn't a bar.
Right.
That's downstairs. It's Barringdale's.
Right. I'm sure they do have some sort of cocktail or cafe.
It's like a speakeasy. Of course
Yeah.
they do. Of course. And I love it. I can't wait to go.
The Nordstrom at Union Square used to have a cheesecake factory as the top floor. But then they also used to have like a cafe in the basement. And then the Nordstrom at the mall kind of near my parents had a cafe for a long time where you could order food. Like there was a full ass restaurant.
Get to the cholera.
Yeah. Anyway, so she coughed up what they thought was blood, but it turned out to just be tomato soup from the cafe in the Nordstroms. You bastard.
I see how it connects. Okay, I got you. I do just want people to start yelling, get to the cholera whenever someone's like,
Cholera.
praying a little bit too long or like just really taking their time with something. You're like, God, get to the cholera.
Yep. But Eugene Levy is basically kicking them out of the store. And
that's the movie. So having seen the movie, having talked about the movie, what do you guys think about the surprisingly woke 2001 hit Serendipity?
It is surprisingly well.
I know, I was shocked that it was, but yeah.
For me, I'm probably not going to watch it again. Just the Lars parts.
Oh,
Yes.
Can I get a Lars cut?
I'll only watch the Lars part. Can I get an all Lars all the time cut? But I fully understand. If I had seen this as a teenager, I would have been all over it. 100%.
And that's when I saw it. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to find love like this.
Yes.
And I did, and it was great for 3 months maybe, and then it's terrible. Like they're about to have some amazing sex for 3 weeks and then realize they hate each other.
Yes.
Did you see how awkward that kiss was?
I mean, the sex might be terrible. You're right. Yeah.
I mean, my version of this is While You Were Sleeping.
Yes.
That's the one that I still am like, I still love this, but
I
it
do
is
love that one too.
questionable.
It is.
Oh, a movie where someone lies about being married or engaged to someone who's in a coma, then marries that person's brother? How was that problematic?
I don't see a problem.
But Sandy B's so cute.
Her and Bill Pullman have more chemistry than like every character in this movie combined.
Yes.
It's
yes.
oh, so good.
I mean, and this movie does have that problem of the two people who end up together at the end don't really spend much time together on screen. They do have like the beginnings of chemistry on that first date, but they only get like 4 hours together.
Yeah.
And you can't build like a romantic connection in that quick a time. So in a movie, like it doesn't land super well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like looking back on it, and I haven't seen this movie in a few years, I will definitely go back and watch it though, because like I do kind of love this pretentious shit. It's great. But I get that it's problematic. It's just, my kind of problematic.
Yeah. Well, okay. So like I've said, I saw it as a teenager.
Yeah, same.
And I loved the fate aspect as a little bit socially awkward, not so attractive kid, like wanting to find that person who was like my person.
The person who would be nice to you.
And it was like made for me,
Yeah.
So it's just kind of remained something that even though I do not believe in fate at all, I still like the idea of it and I like it in things. I think it's fun. I think it's a fun way to tie things together and tie people together. I honestly haven't watched, I used to watch it every year. I haven't watched it in a few years just because it's like, I've seen it a blue million times and it just doesn't hold the same weight for me as it used to.
Sure.
But it is still nostalgic. I love Molly Shannon in it. I love Eugene Levy in it. I love John Corbett in it. And I do love John Cusack. I know his character in this is really cringe, but I loved a lot of the 80s movies and even the dynamic between he and Jeremy Piven. I feel like they have more chemistry than anybody in there.
This movie is really like a buddy comedy on some level because you've got a really funny side character for both Molly Shannon and Jeremy Piven. And I really love that aspect of this movie a lot. That's what makes me, even though maybe it is a little problematic because we are watching our most toxic friends come together, but like those two characters, the Jeremy Piven and Molly Shannon, make this movie so much fun to watch.
Yes. Yeah.
So like I still really like it. Yeah, I agree, babe.
Yeah.
But Paige, do you have any fun facts for us?
I do.
Well, hit us with your fun facts.
Serendipity
Toxic
fun facts. So if you're wondering why they don't seem to have much chemistry in this movie, it's because they literally only shot for a few days together during the entire shoot of the movie.
Oh man, that actually makes sense.
Yeah.
But imagine like if you had built up a moment for 3 years, it might be a little awkward like that. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
like the expectation meeting reality on that is nuts.
Mhm.
The drink they have at Serendipity 3 is their famous frozen hot chocolate. And since the movie opened, the table where they sit has been called the Star Table at the restaurant.
Okay.
Now, during filming on location in New York City, one morning there was a note posted on one of the production trailers that said, quote, "Yes, we are filming a movie. It is called Serendipity. It stars John Cusack and some girl from Britain that you wouldn't know even if we told you her name. We will be shooting until mid-morning. Please don't ask the crew any questions. Even if they don't look like they're working, they are thinking."
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it must have been either at Serendipity or at one of the other locations where they only had a certain amount of time and it was during the day and they were just
Yeah.
trying to get people to leave them alone.
Which is hard to do in New York.
But Kate Beckinsale had been in like big things before this.
Not really.
I mean, she had, well, maybe not here, but like she had been in Much Ado About Nothing and Emma and a bunch of stuff before this movie came out. She was in Pearl Harbor, but come on. Although that came out the same year.
Yeah, I was going to say that came out the same year. By the time when this was shooting, she hadn't been in much that the American public would have known.
She had probably just shot Tiptoes.
Oh, God, you're probably right.
That movie came out after the year after this, and I think it got shelved for a few years because it's truly terrible.
Oof.
It's truly terrible. Anyway, the book Love in the Time of Cholera is mentioned in the remake of High Fidelity that came out in 2020, probably a nod to this movie. Now, there are other things like that where he does the Cassiopeia thing. That's also something he did in One Crazy Summer. So that's kind of a reuse, I guess. Or no, I'm sorry. It's The Sure Thing, not One Crazy Summer. They came out literally back to back. But there is also a weird 9/11 link to this.
Of course there
Pierce
is.
Brosnan's an executive. No, I'm kidding. But following the destruction of the World Trade Center on September 11th, images of the World Trade Center towers were digitally removed from all the skyline shots of New York City in this movie.
Oh.
That's also when they added in some of the skyline shots of San Francisco instead to like pad things out.
Honestly, good call.
Wow. Yeah.
That's that future proofing I was talking about at the beginning of this movie. That's so sad, though, that they had to do that. But yeah, I understand.
Yep. Kate Beckinsale and Molly Shannon did their own stunts. So that's kind of fun.
Okay.
I mean, Molly Shannon did get hit in the head with a golf ball and a golf
did.
club. Like, that seemed like pretty aggressive stunts from her.
Yeah. She fell in a very comedic manner.
Yes.
She's one of the greats, man. SNL alum, baby. Yeah.
She's a very good physical comedian.
Yeah.
Yep. Kate Beckinsale was not the first choice for the lead role.
Oh, you mean the person they classified as some British lady you will not have heard of? Wasn't their first choice?
Yeah, no, their first choice was Jennifer Aniston.
I can see that.
And she turned it down because she was still shooting Friends at the time and wanted to just do that.
Yeah, that was in the later years of Friends when they were making like a shitload of money per episode.
$10 million an episode, if
Yeah.
memory serves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For each one of the 6 main cast guys.
Oof.
Yeah.
That's just for the salaries of the main cast, $60 million an episode.
But this was at a time pre-streaming where everyone watched Friends. The ad revenue alone would have made that pennies.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah. So Bridget Moynihan and John Corbett also star together in Sex and the City as the other half of couples whose partners are cheating together.
Yeah.
Bridget Moynihan plays Big's wife, and John Corbett played Aiden, Carrie's boyfriend, who I thought she should have never broken up with.
Amen.
I am not a Sex and the City person in general. It is not my show. I do not vibe. But that's one of the few episodes that I have seen. And I was like, I aggressively don't vibe with this show if they thought this was a believable storyline.
Yeah.
Yes.
They brought him back too.
They did in the more recent one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because they killed off Mr. Big, right?
Yeah, Big has a heart attack.
They do, yeah.
Yeah. Spoilers, I guess. Anyway, John Cusack apologizing for kicking snow at someone is not scripted. He accidentally kicked snow at an extra and it hit them and he wanted to apologize. And they left it in.
Love it.
He and Jeremy Piven have been in multiple movies together. Grosse Point Blank, Say Anything, and One Crazy Summer. So they have a long history.
Yeah.
And we already covered what a Shania is. So those are your fun facts.
Well, thank you for those fun facts, Paige. Let's talk a little bit about box office. So what do you think the production budget was for Serendipity when it came out in 2001?
In 2001, I'm going to say this probably cost around $8 million because it is John Cusack and this is peak John Cusack. So I'm going to say $8 million.
Okay. Babe, you want to guess?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I'm really bad at this. What did I do last time? I asked what Paige did and then I did it more than that.
That's fine. That's an acceptable weight. How about 8,000,001?
8,000,001.
Okay. So I'm happy to report maybe that it was $28 million.
What?
Oh, no.
They shot this in New York, guys. Like
That's
it's
true. It is on
aggressively in New
location.
York. Like I bet the shoot alone was pretty expensive. And I do think John Cusack was probably worth or probably commanded a pretty high amount. I doubt Kate got as much as she was worth. But if you adjust for inflation, that's almost $50 million today. It's $49.9 million. This movie premiered October 5th, 2001. The number one movie, similar vibe. It was Training Day with
Denzel Washington?
Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. Yeah. Very similar. It's about two guys falling in love. I don't remember that movie that much. Although I do think, if memory serves, Ethan Hawke does get wet. Number 2 was Serendipity that week. Number 3 was Don't Say a Word. Number 4 was the movie I saw that week, Zoolander. And number 5 was Joyride.
Oh, Joyride is a pretty fun movie, if this is the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, it's the one with, it's the Too Fast, Too Furious with Steve Zahn. I don't remember. It's Paul Walker, Steve Zahn, Lily Sobieski. It's that one.
I was thinking of something else, but that is also a fun one.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen it.
I was thinking of the movie Sex Drive, I think. I don't know if you've seen Sex Drive.
Does it have Massimo in it? I get it. It's fine.
No, but not good, but fun.
Yeah, I said Massimo. Anyway, so what do you think Serendipity made in its opening weekend, guys?
I mean, I remember this being a very popular movie, so opening weekend, I'm going to put it at around 23 mil.
Okay.
23,000,001.
So I'm happy maybe to report that it made $13.9 million in its opening weekend.
Okay.
When it was, again, 2 in the box office. It was in the top 5 for its first 2 weeks. It was in the top 10 for its first 5 weeks. And was in theaters for 13 weeks total. So what do you think it made in the box office in 2001? Domestically. I'll do worldwide in a second.
Domestically, I'm going to put it at 42.
Okay.
You know what I'm going to do.
42 and 1.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm happy to report maybe that it made $50 million, 50.2 technically. Internationally, it brought in another $27.2 million, which puts the total up at $77.4 million today. So on a $28 million budget, it made $77.4. Definitely made money. It didn't make a ton of money, but if you adjust for inflation, that $77.4 is right over $138 million today.
Great.
And that is your box office. Paige, do you want to hit us with that romance scale?
Sure. Our romance scale is a scale of 1 to 4 of how romantic we found the movie today, Todd.
I'm going to give it a 1. It's not super romantic. It is a great buddy film. Like Molly Shannon and Jeremy Piven, like if you could rate them on a friend scale, they're a 10.
Sure.
Because those friends are so supportive and kind and like great.
Yeah.
But it's not really romantic because you don't really spend any time with John Cusack and Kate Beckinsale on screen, really.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Natalie.
I'm gonna give it a 2
Nice.
just because I still the idea of fate I still feel like is very romantic. So it's like the fate was romantic to me, not necessarily the relationship between the two of them.
All right. I'm still going to give it a 1 because fate was like, cheat on your fiance. And that's your romance scale.
This week, I made you watch Serendipity. What are you going to make us watch next week, Paige?
So next, we're going to be doing a movie that's even more of a mess than this movie as far as premises go. And we're doing No Hard Feelings.
The movie where Jennifer Lawrence gets, I guess, hired to date maybe a child. I honestly don't know because I haven't seen it either. But I do know the premise is like strange.
Yeah. And that's what we'll do next week.
So your homework is to hopefully watch a very not problematic movie, but I'm sure it is, in No Hard Feelings, and then report back for that episode. Hey, Natalie, thank you so much for guesting on this episode of the podcast and editing all of the episodes of the podcast and like marrying me and stuff. It's just the best.
You're welcome to all of the above.
So can you tell people where they can find more of the stuff that you do?
Sure. I'm kind of away from everything right now. You're welcome to follow.
You're taking a break.
It's good. It's good for the mental health.
Yeah, I was really tired of having my life revolve around social media and sharing my life with other people, but I do still post occasionally.
Yeah.
It's at Natalie Renee Kirk. Someday I'm going to start my fitness podcast back when my life feels a little less hellish. So
Yeah.
yeah, Instagram is about the only place you can find me right now. Or join the Patreon because I'm running that now.
Yeah, I mean, Natalie is the person who's messaging, and it's the Horror Virgin Patreon, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Natalie's the person who's managing that for us now, yeah. Well, babe, thank you so much for, guesting.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And hey, Todd, do we have any reviews?
We do have some reviews. This week, I'm going to read one of our most recent Spotify comments, and our most recent episode that we have up for me to read a comment off of is going to be the Meet Me Next Christmas episode, which, if you remember, was the Pentatonics Heavy Christmas movie we did last week.
Yes.
Which is great. I'm going to read this one, and it's from Claire, and they say, I made my mum, it's M-U-M, so they're probably British, and dad watched this. Actually, because of that, I'm going to read it like this. I made my mummy and daddy watch this with me immediately upon listening, and they stayed awake through the whole thing, which is the highest praise a movie can get. That was a very sad comment, because apparently her parents just fall asleep during movies. So
They be sleepy.
I get it, though. There's nothing more riveting than the Pentatonics.
Yep. Especially as Santa.
So, Claire, thank you so much for that Spotify comment. Oh, I should say this, because I made a joke when we were doing that movie about something Natalie said when I explained the premise to her, and I got it wrong. And I do want to correct it, because what she actually said was way funnier. And it was this, Paige. I was explaining the premise of Meet Me Next Christmas to Natalie. I was like, it's a great love story, but there's like a lot of pentatonics.
Yeah.
You should watch it. And then, babe, do you want to say it how you said it to me?
We'll see.
Anyway, I thought that was a way better line delivery than what I said, because she said okay or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, anyway, so if you want to have me read your 5-star review and or Spotify comment, leave us one of those things and I'll do just that. So yeah, if you guys like this show and want to hear our other show where we talk about horror movies, that is The Horror Virgin. That's the only other podcast I am on, but Paige is also on Cult Podcast, which you can find at Cult Podcast. And you can find us on social media. I am at Todd J. Awesome, literally everywhere. Paige is at Paige Wesley on Instagram.
No, it's at Rampage Wesley on Instagram and TikTok, at Paige Wesley on Twitter.
That's right. All right. So that's where you can find Paige. If you want to find the show, we are at Romancing the Pod Show, right?
Yep, Romancing Pod Show on Twitter.
Well, and Instagram, right?
And Instagram, but it's show SHO because character limits. If you start typing Romancing the Pod, it'll come up.
It'll definitely come up on Instagram. I don't know about Twitter because I haven't posted on Twitter in a hot ass minute. So who knows? But that is where you can find more of us. So yeah, guys, give us a follow. Support the show any way you can. We'd love it.
Smash that like button.
Hell yeah.
That's going to be it for us, you guys. I'm Paige.
And I'm Todd.
And you complete us.
To completion. Bye. This movie's great but toxic as hell, nerds.
La 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 la.